A faint signal flickered across the static of deep space, so subtle that Ren Oakes almost dismissed it as another ghost echo from drifting debris. He rubbed tired eyes at his station aboard the remote listening post known as the Astro Vigil, stationed in orbit around the barren reaches of the Zirath frontier. His console blinked once just enough to catch his attention before slipping back into emptiness. Still, out here where routine dulled every sense, even a stray blink was worth a closer look. Ren replayed the last half-minute of data. This time he picked up a longer pulse, 3 short bursts, then silence. His breath caught. Whatever it was, the encryption read as alien. Protocol did not mention intercepting such signals, but the Astro Vigil had never exactly followed a predictable script. Ren cleared his throat and tapped the internal line. "Captain Cade, we might have something." Moments later, Captain Cade entered, sleeves rolled to his elbows, gaze immediately locking on the blinking feed. Ren explained the bursts, the alien encryption, and the unlikelihood of a glitch. "Let's run it through the decoders," Cade said calmly. Ren complied. Fragments of distorted voices crackled into the comm bay, bearing urgent undertones. "Under attack, civilians, immediate assistance required." That was enough to raise every alarm in Ren's mind. Cade's stern expression told him the captain felt the same. The signal had come from Sector 421, an empty stretch of space with no official human presence. No fleets, no colonies, just lonely outposts like theirs. The voice claimed to belong to Commander Tarek of the Dairan fleet, broadcasting a sealed frequency to Admiral Raysalian to Alien, presumably. But the plea had ended up here, at the edge of nowhere. Cade told Ren to trace the coordinates, unwilling to wait for Admiral Mira's permission. By the time official orders came in, it would be too late for anyone needing help so far from known routes. A second pulse arrived, repeating every 90 seconds. Ren's scans showed no friendly ships, no signs of any reinforcement. Whatever had happened out there, the Dairan fleet was alone. Cade ordered a full sweep. Nothing came back but cosmic drift. Yet the distress call looped again, Commander Tarek's voice raw with despair. Attacks on civilians, thousands lost, millions at risk. It was enough to make the quiet hum of the station feel suffocating. "Ravager," he said. "We have 2 patrol craft that can run silent. We leave soon." On a secure channel he sent everything to Admiral Mira. But in practice, the Astro Vigil's crew was already moving. They were far from the heart of humanity. Out here, you made your own calls. A third repetition crackled through, more desperate than before. Civilians crammed aboard ships with no defense, no sign of help. Cade told Ren to respond. "Commander Tarek, this is Captain Cade of the Astro Vigil. Hold your position. We are coming." Once the shock of those words settled across the comm bay, the crew snapped into action. Lieutenant Hask voiced the concerns everyone felt. They were a simple station, their patrol craft lightly armed. This was not their fight, not by any rulebook. But Cade's only reply was that it was now. If they did nothing, an entire fleet might vanish in this black corner of space. Unseen and unmourned, the Sparrow and Ravager launched within the hour, thrusters glaring against the station's dull hangar lights. Cade piloted the Sparrow himself. Ren manned the co-pilot's console, scanning real-time updates from Tarek's fleet as they jumped into warp. The Dairan transmissions spoke of more destroyed transports, unstoppable attackers closing in. By the time Cade and Lieutenant Hask emerged from warp, Sector 421 looked like a graveyard. Battered Dairan transports huddled behind what few defense ships remained. 4 towering enemy cruisers circled them like predators. Recagalian or otherwise floated under the faint gleam of a dying star. Cade grimly surveyed the carnage and ordered immediate engagement. Ren targeted the swarm of enemy fighters with the Sparrow's railguns. The Ravager dove in with missile strikes. They did not have the firepower to match such cruisers head-on, but they had speed and nerve. The plan was to disrupt the attackers, distract and dismantle them with quick strikes. The Dairan ships, clinging to life, used the sudden reprieve to reorganize. Bit by bit, the human patrol craft sowed chaos among the enemy. But soon, a fresh barrage hammered the Sparrow's shields, nearly ripping them apart. Wren fought to keep the hull from cooking under each hit. Hask, in the Ravager, circled wide to take out enemy fighters from behind. Blinding explosions lit the dark. Victory was far from certain. Just as the largest enemy cruiser braced for another punishing salvo, an unexpected voice arrived through comms. Admiral Mira had sent backup. Better yet, Captain Lear of the ESS Sentinel, a full-sized warship, was leading a squadron to their aid. Within minutes, the Sentinel and its escorts dropped into real space, opening fire with cannons that dwarfed the Astrovigil's little patrol boats. The enemy formation buckled almost instantly. Hammered from both sides, cruisers tried to regroup, but were pinned by heavy salvos from the Sentinel. The Ravager and Sparrow took advantage of every opening, picking off fighter screens. One cruiser tried to withdraw but found no room to maneuver. Another took a direct hit to its reactor and burst like a dying star. Finally, silence settled. Shredded enemy hulls drifted in the void. The battered Diaren transports, though still threatened by structural damage, had survived. Adrenaline still coursed through Wren as Cade took stock of the results. The Sparrow's reactor was down to half capacity, its plating scorched. The Ravager had lost some of its rail systems. The Sentinel had fared better, though its secondary cannons were offline. But they were alive. Captain Lear's voice crackled with relief and a touch of humor. "Try not to get in over your head before we show up next time." Cade just gave a faint smile. Then urgent signals came from one of the Diaren transports. Their core was on the brink of meltdown. Engineers from the Sentinel raced over, sealing ruptures and stabilizing the reactor. The entire rescue was delicate, a final test of nerves. In the end, they saved that ship too. Later, when Cade boarded the Diaren flagship for a face-to-face meeting, he found Commander Tarek exhausted, voice laced with frustration at having been abandoned in a supposedly defended sector. They had expected a Diaren fleet that never arrived, or perhaps was destroyed elsewhere. Tarek asked why humans, with no formal call, had stepped into an alien crisis. Cade's answer was simple: because it was right. Tarek accepted the words, clearly unsure what to make of them. Yet the truth was that, without the Astrovigil's intervention, thousands more would have died. As Cade departed, Tarek said quietly, "Your arrival saved so many lives. We will not forget." Back on the Sparrow, Wren watched from the viewport as the Diaren vessels prepared to depart. Some were little more than patched-up hulls venting occasional sparks, but all had functioning engines enough to warp out. On an open frequency, Tarek's voice came through one final time. "If ever your people call, we will answer. We owe you a debt." The transports vanished into the void, one by one. Wren, arms folded, wondered aloud if they truly meant it. Cade gazed distant on the empty stars, answered softly that it did not matter why they had helped. They would have done it anyway. The tension on the Sparrow eased at last. Crews began patching the worst of the damage. The Ravager limped back toward the Sentinel, where repairs awaited. Though it had been a short, brutal fight, the outcome lingered with everyone. When Captain Lear's fleet finally escorted them back, Cade ordered Wren to set a course for home. Engines hummed against the silent dark, battered but resolute, as the few stars in this lonely sector glowed just a little brighter for having witnessed one unlikely rescue.